Hi, everyone. I love seeing these numbers of participants go up even through this last session of the day. So we'll wait a couple minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. I hope you've all taken some time to get outside, get a little bit of fresh air. We will be doing it at 4:30, getting that fresh air. So I know some of you have been hopping real quickly. We only had a couple minutes between the two sessions, so we'll give you just another minute to come in. Okay, it looks like the numbers have slowed down. So welcome to the very last session of the day. It might be the last one and it might be short at only 25 minutes, but I assure you it will be powerful. I'm Michelle Watson and I'm joined by two wonderful volunteers, Cheryl Guerin and Cynthia Green, as well as NAMI New Hampshire's Deputy Director, Liz Hodgkins. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about New Hampshire's amazing volunteers and how through their courage and passion, they build communities and change lives. So I have to make that bigger. Okay, so what do our volunteers do? They provide support, they educate, and they advocate. Through support, they run our support groups. And I've got some data in the next slide to talk about the number of support groups. We have some general support groups for parents and primary caregivers, family, meaning you have an adult loved one over the age of 18 or so that you support that has a mental health condition. We have our peer support groups for those that have a mental health condition themselves. And we have support groups for those that have survived a suicide loss of a loved one. And then we have specialty groups, those for co-occurring disorders with a substance use disorder and mental health condition. We have a support group for those with a loved one that experienced psychosis. And we also have a fairly new support group over on the Seacoast for parents of young adults. These support groups are all led by volunteers who've been trained in the NAMI national model and adhere to the fidelity of that program. They also often meet one-on-one with people that attend their support groups, or if they're trying to decide if a support group is for them. So they really have a huge commitment to helping Granite Staters that are impacted by mental illness and suicide. We also have education programs. They are NAMI, we have NAMI Family to Family, Peer to Peer, and NAMI Basics. And those classes run 6 or 8 weeks for about 2.5 hours each. And we train people with lived experience, either as a family member, as a peer, or as a parent to lead those classes. Cynthia Green, who's here, she helps lead Family to Family, and Cheryl Guerin runs our NAMI Basics classes. We also have speaker programs that educate the community. We have In Our Own Voice, where individuals who have a mental health condition share their story out in the community. They say what happened, what helps, and what's next. These are some of our most amazing presentations and really provide a lot of impact and understanding out in the community of what it's like to have a mental health condition, to live with one. Life Interrupted is from the loved one's perspective. So how has your life been impacted by having a loved one with a mental health condition? Survivor Voices is a presentation where those who have had a suicide loss then share what it's like to have lost somebody to suicide and still bring hope to those in the community by sharing their experiences. Ending the Silence is a program we deliver in schools for middle and high school students, staff, and the community. And NAMI Family and Friends is a brand new presentation that we are about to launch. And it's a teaser of Family to Family. It's a 1.5 hour to 4 hour presentation that explains what it's like to have a loved one with a mental health condition, how to support them, how to support yourselves. And another huge role our volunteers play are as advocates. We have a training for first responders and law enforcement called the Crisis Intervention Team Training, and they do role plays. Cheryl does that as well, and it's a great demonstration of an individual in a mental health crisis and how to appropriately respond. That's really impactful at the end of the week. And they testify at public hearings, they submit information to their legislatures, and they do press conferences. So they're just amazing. So you have to check out these numbers. These numbers are really impressive. I know there's a lot on the screen, but we have about 150 active volunteers filling over 200 volunteer roles. And that's just impressive on its own. But when you look at the number of presentations, support group meetings, education programs, and people reached by our volunteers in one calendar year, that is truly impressive. So in 2025, our volunteers did 78 presentations to almost 1,900 people. They did 11 Ending the Silence presentations to 310 attendees in schools and in the community. 367 first responders watched volunteers role play mental health crises to understand how to more effectively respond to Granite Staters who need help and compassion. We had 7 education programs delivered to almost 100 participants. And then this number, I had to recheck it a couple of times because this was just amazing to me. We had 347 support group meetings last year with over 2,300 participants and 255 new people attending those groups to get the support by our dedicated, compassionate volunteers. But that's not just what's really impactful. It's the stories that we hear. And we call them impact stories that we share here at the office. So we'll do a survey at the end of each year, and there was a quote from a support group participant, and they said, "The support group is a beacon of hope. I return to my support group because we laugh often, something we need when life is hard, and I leave knowing I am not alone." This just happened, this next impact story. Our information and resource team got a call last week from somebody who had taken the class 20 some years ago, and she lost her certificate. And she couldn't remember the name of the class, but she remembered the name of the leader, the volunteer leader. So I said, "Oh, that must have been our Parents Meeting the Challenge class." And I said, "I don't have a date that I can put on it, but we still have the template. Can I print out that template for you?" And she said yes. And our staff member that was talking with her said she started crying. She was so grateful to get the certificate that represented the hope that she finally had from volunteer leading that class. Another story was I was in one of the parent support groups, and we had one of our young adult in our own voice presenters sharing their story for the first time. And as they shared their story of successfully making it to college and being in recovery from their mental health condition, the parents started crying tears of joy, right? Because they knew that there was now hope for their kids. And then the last story that I'd like to share is I was at an Ending the Silence presentation at Alvern High School in Hudson. And the young adult presenter was female, and she was talking about her anxiety and her eating disorder. And at the end of the presentation, this young man walked up to her and gave her a hug in front of the whole student body and said, "Thank you so much, because I have experienced that as well." And so this is what our volunteers do. These stories and hundreds like them show the true impact our volunteers have here in the Granite State. Through their work every day, they support the grassroots mission of NAMI New Hampshire. So I am going to stop sharing my slide as I just clicked to the next thing. And I'm going to introduce Cheryl Guerin, who's one of our volunteers. Um, and I want to ask her a few questions to share with you today. So, Cheryl, can you talk to us a little bit about how you first came to NAMI New Hampshire?
Sure. Jeff White said it well in a presentation earlier today. I didn't find NAMI, NAMI found me. My family was in crisis. My son was struggling with mental illness that was undiagnosed and being treated as behavioral problems. And so I was struggling with truancy and a number of other school related interventions, and I was contacted by a peer support person to see if I wanted to be a part of a program called Fast Forward. And that kicked me into participating. I'm a beneficiary of the previous generation of volunteers in the work that they did to provide programming. So I participated in the NAMI Basics class. I found it to be my tribe. I finally found those that understood what I was talking about. And it really made a huge difference for me and my son. The benefit that I gained and my son gained from NAMI's efforts. It was just so simple to say, of course I'm going to volunteer. Of course I am. Right. So yeah, that's how I found out about NAMI in the first place.
I really appreciate that. And, I don't think we hear it quite as much anymore, but Liz and I would talk about how often we would hear, oh, I finally found NAMI New Hampshire. People hadn't heard of us. And I feel like we're hearing it a little bit less. And we really appreciated that it sparked your interest to volunteer with us. So can you share a little bit about the many different volunteer roles that you have?
Yeah, I've tried them all. I'm that kind of person. I'm an overachiever, but I have had the opportunity to calibrate. I've tried pretty much all of the programs, right? So I've taught the basics class, Life Interrupted, Ending the Silence, CIT role play on the board, and press conference and testifying, and it's like, wow, this is amazing, and it's incredible how you have the opportunity in those programs to turn pain into power, right? Like it's a shifting of feeling like things are happening to you as you try to navigate these complex systems, where you feel like you don't have a lot of control. And it really, the volunteering helps me to feel like I'm turning my experience into something for good. Of all of those programs that I participate in, I think the one that's nearest and dearest is the NAMI Basics. So you did talk a little bit about that, but let me maybe describe that a little bit more. So it's a six Saturday or whatever, six classes where it's parents and caregivers together learning about what are mental health diagnoses, what resources are available to them, how do you think about it, how do you talk through it, how do you manage day to day. I often tell a story of I have two sons. One has a heart condition, and when his heart condition was diagnosed, I got a referral to a specialty, and I got told how to live day to day. And that didn't happen on the side where my son had mental health. And so in that NAMI Basics class, you get some of that kind of, what are the basics, right? That's why it's called basics. What are the basics about the environment that you're managing through? And how do you live with this day to day? And how do you be in community with others who are living through the same things? So yeah, NAMI Basics. I look forward to that curriculum being updated so that we can continue to offer that, and recognizing that, that might not be in the current offerings. So, but it is really a very powerful way for to empower families and help people to move through a complex environment and recover from the trauma that they may experience, and just become well.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I have one other question for you.
Sure.
So you keep adding to your roles with us. So, what do you get from it? I mean, you volunteer a lot of your time.
Yes.
What keeps you engaged with us?
Yeah, a lot of it is reducing isolation, right? So I described my world before NAMI as feeling very alone. I experienced a lot of shame and stigma and felt very alone. And the community that is NAMI and all the volunteering that I do really supports me having a community that can reduce my isolation, that can help me navigate the complex systems and continue to support my son to become the man that he will be and be successful living, without discrimination in his community and attaining the full life that he deserves. He's fully worthy of life and love and success. And this community partners with me in parenting the best that I can, given the situation that I'm in. These are the cards. And we're all here together to support one another through that. So it's like a giant support group to be able to be in community with all the different volunteers and all of the different programs. I benefit from the wisdom and the knowledge and the expertise that is everything volunteering at NAMI New Hampshire offers. And it's a season, right? This is the season for me in which that is something I can put my time and energy to. That won't always be the case, but I recognize now is a time in which I can make these choices to spend my time here and can make a difference and hope to, again, pass that along to others as others pass that along to me to continue to benefit our communities and just strengthening New Hampshire.
Thank you so much. And
Welcome.
thank you for volunteering and sharing your story.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. So thankful.
And I didn't ask Cynthia if she wanted to say anything, but I will share that, and then you can decide, Cynthia. It's up to you because I know I'm putting you on the spot. Cynthia is one of our family to family education program leaders. She's been a member of this conference committee for 2 years, which we're very grateful for. She also does these, she'll staff a resource table for us, or, we ask her to do something, she's always willing to jump in. And so we're very appreciative of all of that effort. So. But you're muted, so that works. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick, and then we're going to turn it over to Liz. So thank you, Cheryl, again, for sharing all of that. If you want to learn more about volunteering with us in all of the different ways, whether it's education, support, or advocacy, please make sure you go check out our website and look at our volunteer and take action pages. Sign up for our e-news. You can do that right on the homepage. Public policy alerts that come out every Friday during the legislative season. You can do that on the Take Action page, and follow us on social media. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Director, Liz Hodgkins, to wrap up.
Thanks, Michelle. So I'm just doing a little reflecting here. Today was informative. We started off with an opportunity to consider our statewide view. And then we zoomed out and looked at the federal landscape and how it informs what's happening at home. Our presenters educated us, made us consider our creative side, helped us embrace our differences, gave us a framework to be more open and curious. Our young adult voices reminded us about how important it is to care for ourselves. We learned a little bit about the impact of volunteers. Thank you for that, Cheryl and Michelle, and how they support our grassroots efforts. And lastly, we learned about how to register for the walk, build a team, and build community. So a lot of our presenters, I know that sometimes there were mentions that they had heavy topics, but they also gave us hope. We want to thank them for their time, their energy, and their thoughtful engagement with our community. We showed you a small profile of some really great work that's happening in the Granite State and beyond. There are many champions who are working to improve the lives of people impacted by mental illness or suicide. So speaking of champions, I just want to take this moment and remind everyone that NAMI New Hampshire annual awards are open. And so we have 7 categories of awards to choose from. And there are many people who are doing really great work, and this is a way to just honor and acknowledge some of that. So including a NAMI New Hampshire annual, NAMI New Hampshire Volunteer of the Year. So please head to our website, or, Michelle has shared some information on that, so that you can nominate someone who's doing really great work in your community. And last of all, I just want to take a moment and thank the NAMI New Hampshire Annual Conference Committee that is comprised of staff and volunteers who've worked tirelessly to put this entire event together. They rock. They are just lots of energy, time, thoughtfulness, careful consideration, navigating conversations back and forth, a lot of work behind the scenes to make it all happen very seamlessly today. I also want to thank the leadership of Michelle and Deb, who've been at the helm and continue to make this a really remarkable and inspiring day. You've once again pulled off a remarkable conference, and we're very thankful for you. So, Michelle, I can't remember if it's my job to remind this, but I guess it doesn't matter if two people are reminding people. Fill out the evaluation. So it will come. It's a way in which we help plan for our event next year. We'll really take the time to look at that, and we're grateful for your input so that we can plan a really great event next year. But thank you for joining us here today, and I'm going to pass it back to Michelle, who will close us out.
Yes, and thank you for reminding everybody. And no, it doesn't matter who says it. So really appreciate that. I do want to acknowledge Deb Jerkois. We've worked really well together this year. It was great. We're kind of that yin and yang as to where our strengths are, I think. And so I really want to let her know how much I appreciate the time that she gave this year to this conference. It's really been spectacular. And thank you all for being here. Fill out those evaluation forms, and please share the recordings with people you know. It's really great information, and we keep them up, so you can even go back if you've really enjoyed today. You can go back and look at some of the things we've shared in years past. So thank you all. Enjoy the beautiful weather, and we'll see you soon.